People get frustrated.
You just keep hoarding ideas.
We need 25 ideas.
10 grand for some photos?
Good luck with that.
Well, then I'll just go do something else. Like,
you ain't gonna listen. And if that don't make sense, use your Googles.
Hi, y'all. You've tuned in to Stay Sharp, conversations and stories about personal and professional development, hosted by myself, Jordan Ray, and my other half, Rashad Tyler. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm so good.
We're practicing our intros, and it's just new for me because I'm with you all the time. So I'm like, how are you for the 20th time today?
You did.
Tell them how you are.
You literally just did that at 7 o'clock when we started our day.
Did,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm glad to be back at it. You look amazing. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Feeling good. At the time of this recording, I am well.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear.
We're in for a treat today, talking about planning and organization. And I know that those words are not sexy to creatives. At least I don't think that they're sexy to creatives. But we want to talk about why we need to be able to do both of them at a high level, to plan and to organize before we get into our ideas, right?
Yeah.
Do you have initial thoughts on creativity, but being able to plan and organize those creative ideas?
So for me and our team, it always starts with a plan. The plan in most instances represents the macro, the roadmap, the big picture idea of where you're trying to go, what it's going to take to get there, right? And who needs to do what in order for it to be successful. And so I'm of the opinion, because I've seen it happen, that you don't always have to be organized. But if you don't have a plan, you are you're trash. Like you're done. Like you can't win. But I do find that if you're not organized, the morale gets low. People get frustrated. And when you are, on the other hand, very organized and have a plan in place, then you have room for the right type of feedback. People can think through things and share insights that came along the journey that if you were not organized, you wouldn't have had a chance to hear. More importantly, you wouldn't have had a chance to implement. Yeah. So you have to be very serious about both. But I do highly recommend that you don't get into a project unless there is a plan. I think that some people are waiting for the muse, and that's you're like, it'll just come to me. Yeah. And I gotta beg to differ, because as a business owner, I can't wait for it to come to me. Like that's not what makes things go for me on my end. And I think that's when I felt like I needed to turn the corner and have a more organized plan, or plan to be more organized. Yes. And
separate the two before I even get into my creative idea.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just waiting to be inspired, or I'm like, oh, it'll just come, it's magic, and that does not happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and admittedly, like, you are fantastic in the micro. So what I hear when you share what you just did is, even if you are in the agency or in an organization, if you don't have an organized set of processes by which you are required to show up with ideas that then have a vetting process or a score assigned to it for implementing or passing, like, you're still going to be done because you're not going to have a plan to show up with ideas, right? So even there, you got to have, like, we need 25 ideas a month turned in, and then you'll organize a way to deliver 25 ideas, if not more than that. right? So it's still a dance, and we could be having the chicken egg conversation.
I feel that so many times when we're working on projects, even our own internal projects, client work, and there's so many ideas being thrown around from anybody. Mm-hmm. And every day there's a new idea. But for me, I am so in the micro. A lot of times I am standing in an operational or a project management role. And I'm like, but okay, y'all, this sounds great.
Yeah.
How are we going to get this done? So I'm really hyper focused on the steps that it's going to take. And thus I can put together a timeline, and thus I can then divvy out and delegate to other people, okay, what to do. And then we can work backwards from a due date. I'm really big on being able to set a due date, set a time frame based on the plan and based on everything that we've organized to be able to say, okay, yeah, we're launching this, or this is going out or shipping on this date. And then we can work back from there. So whatever we all got to do to get this done in 30 days or 60 days, this is it. Everybody knows, there's no surprises.
Right.
I'm really big on shipping the work, and you have to have a plan to do that. Otherwise you just keep hoarding ideas and like kind of creating some stuff, but you don't have an actual process for getting it out into the world.
Yeah, I agree with you. And just a little bit of insight for the listener or viewer. In our company, my chief role is to deliver a plan. Her chief role and responsibilities are about giving us organization.
And keeping that plan on
go. Deliver on time.
Absolutely. I have two examples that come to mind where I've brought you something in order for us to execute and get a result on the back end. The first thing is our brand shoot a while back now. It's been over 2.5 years since we had our official Wear Label team brand shoot. And still to this day, it's one of the best productions and the best results, the best team, the best set that I have ever been on. And I'm biased because I put it together, I produced it. Yeah. But I remember bringing you the idea and I'm like, hey, we need photos. And then I was like, because we're going to put them on our new website. And then you were like, okay, well, what's the plan? How much does it cost? And I'm like, oh crap. Like I got to go organize all this information so I can put it in front of you in a way that you can't say no to. So a lot of what we do internally and externally on other projects with other people that we work with and partnerships or clients is we're selling our ideas at any given time. And so you can't sell something that doesn't have a plan to it, especially not to someone else who runs a business or who's investing in it. Because then they're just going to ask you all these questions. Well, how much does it cost? How long does it take? What all does that involve? Whoop.
Right.
So coming back to the brand shoot, I put a whole spreadsheet together. We had a budget in there. I storyboarded the video. I mood boarded the shots, the list and everything. And I'm like, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to wear. This is who we're going to work with. And you were like, okay, like how much does it cost? And I get down to the end of the thing and you like, so Jordan, we about to spend 10 grand for some photos for our website. You remember? And I was like, yeah. Yeah.
And I had to, at that moment, you were clear about why and the value. And that's the rest of the conversation, right? Because if you cannot articulate the reason, the usefulness, the return on investment, then your creative, self-sex exploration is going to be over, right? Because nobody's going to fund that. And I find that people want to be creative for creative sake. Good luck with that. I don't think you'll be doing very many things creatively, and the level will be capped. So if you are, interested in marine life and interested in film, it doesn't make you a person that's capable of creating Avatar. Because you got to go get, $100 million in order to shoot, 20 minutes of this thing.
Yeah.
So how do you get other stakeholders on board? You say, hey, I have this idea. Here's the market that it goes to. Here is the cost. Here are the things that we control on our side. In fact, we will go 50% on the expense. We'll do the deal like this. You have to have a way of making sure that the person on the other side, who sometimes is spending the money or they have additional responsibilities to this thing, how this makes sense. And if you can't do that, then again, your little creative exploit should be cut short because you don't have a reason for doing it.
Yeah, my favorite question sometimes is to just ask the room, so what are we doing? Because someone has to know.
Somebody got to know.
That's why we work so well together too, because you just brought this really big, massive example of, okay, well, if you are interested in marine biology and whatever, like you can't just go make Avatar and just be like, cool, like I did a creative project because I had an idea. Mm-hmm. There's all of these other layers to it. And
do you know story? Do you know marketing? Do you know coloring? Do you know casting? Right?
Yeah.
It's all of these other things, right?
Yep.
Can you write it? Well, who you got to get to write it? How good are they? Are they interested in your marine biology story? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it'll save you so much time down the line if you are just organizing your stuff and your thoughts on the front side before you present them to someone else. Because another thing that I think we see sometimes is someone could come to us with their ideas and then they're kind of putting it on the table for us to figure out what they're really trying to say.
Because they don't know they're in the business of delivering X. And if they don't know what their business is, then no matter what you do creatively, it is 100% going to fail. And it's going to fail miserably. And guess who they're going to point the finger to or at? They're going to point the finger at us.
Yeah.
And so it's our responsibility to hold a mirror up to clients, partners, and all the rest of that and go, hey, guys, as lovingly as we possibly can, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And I want to be on this journey with you, right? Because we all come from this common place. So let my experience be of use to you. You have decided that you want us on board. We're honored to be on board. And that you can afford us. But ultimately, you're responsible for the win. Are you up for that? Are you up for that?
Yeah.
And if you're not, get up for it. Don't decide like, oh, it's beyond my ability. Figure out who you need to become in order to lead a project and know what your actual product or your one thing is. But this seems like a conversation for another episode.
Yeah. Like we'll put a pin in that. But what's the quote about you fall to the level of your training?
Yeah.
That is very much something that I think that's a lot of the conviction that I walk around with every day is that if I am not prepared, I am going to fall in whatever way, and fail is fail is a pretty strong word, but I'm going to fall to the level of my training if I'm not prepared. And so what can I do to anticipate all of these things? A really like a smaller story or a more of a home project that we just did that we had to plan out was our storage unit. So we have all of this equipment, some of it's new and it's just been in our apartment. And I'm like, can't walk in the front door because we've put everything in our entryway. So we kind of decided together to get a storage unit. Great. Now I'm like, well, we need an efficient way to organize our storage unit because we're going to have so much stuff in there, but we're going to need access to it. The way that we're using our storage unit is really like an additional studio situation. We're going to have inventory in there. Y'all know we doing the candles and stuff, check out the website, raregoods.com. But back to the storage unit. I'm like, how are we going to organize the storage unit? We have a 5x8 situation going on. And I want to organize it in a way where we can get in and out, get stuff in, get the, microphones and things out, but also easily put it back in there, have a place for everything. So I'm like, okay, I got to organize this whole thing. I go through, I make my measurements first, or I get my measurements, and then I make a design of the storage space. It's not 3D because I don't really know how to do all that, but everything down to like the inch.
Yeah.
So I could go on Home Depot, I could go on Amazon.com, and I'm finding shelving that's going to give us the most for our money. So then I can go show him, hey, I'm about to spend $300 something on some shelves. And I don't want him asking me why, because he can see, oh, this is where this is going to go. And it's the same thing when you're pitching any sort of creative idea. And especially knowing that people's time is money, and their energy and their effort and their expertise is money. When you're coming into a room and you have an idea, you have something you want to share, please have thought through that plan first so you can ask for what you want or get approval quickly.
Yeah.
That's what you're in it for, right?
That's right. I think anybody who's afraid of someone asking them why is usually pushing that off because they don't want to be adequately prepared. So I love you asking me why, anybody asking me why, because I want to, like, my self-esteem is largely connected to being thoughtful.
Yeah, he does. And it's a thing. Story time. A few months ago, we had a situation, or we've had multiple situations actually over the last year, where you've needed me to be your stylist. And now we're talking wardrobe now.
It's language.
He's needed me to outfit him, right? Or fit you, or collect a wardrobe for him for major weekends, maybe like red carpets, just behind the scenes video shoots or award shows that you needed to be fly for because, you was going to see, Gunna back there. I don't know. Well, you won't go see Gunna.
Gunna wanna.
But I had a really tough time trying to play that role because I suggested to you, I'm like, well, we just need to get you a stylist. I know this person over here, this dude in Atlanta, we can get you a stylist. Anyways, long story short, I started to pull some things for you a few months ago now. This was for Essence Festival, maybe. Well, there's one situation that I'm thinking of. Will you elaborate a little bit more on what we were doing, why you needed these wardrobe fits, but also how fittings, like actual wardrobe fittings, changed your perspective on planning?
First of all, I styled myself for Essence. So I saw several of my music industry friends who probably only stepped to me because like, oh yeah, you put it together today.
No.
My whole fit,
not Essence.
I'm just making. You mentioned it.
You did your thing for Grammys. I held you down for Essence.
Yeah, absolutely did. That fit that I wore to the to the show was 100% me. You put me onto the brand.
Okay.
Fair?
Okay. So I styled you. And
she sent me a website
physically
link.
Put it on.
Anyway, so with my work with the incredible Money Long, the job that I'm responsible for the most part, or at least during that time, was to make sure all of the trains run on time, right? And all of the things that are necessary for a video shoot, performance, or whatever it is, like all of the staff, all of the contributors know where things are, know when they need to be. Just make sure that all of the things are connected. Not a whole lot of creative work, but largely organizational, right? Because this is a person on money side, like she's going to be very hands-on with all of her, her entire team. So she knows who's doing what things look like, and so on and so forth. So she might come to me and say, all right, well, when are we doing blah, blah, blah? Like, where's this at? So my thing has always been like, let's set the fitting, 2 fittings, 3 fittings, as far away from the game day, whatever that game day is, as possible. Yeah. So we can have you like super comfortable. We can see multiple looks so you can feel great about it, right? And she loves that. She prefers to be prepared. So just think like I'm able to do for someone else what I can't do for myself, which is like think about with intention wardrobe. Mm-hmm. So I have this experience, a lot of it, and not only with money, just in my whole career, like doing this very same thing. So this is probably what's also a part of frustrating Jordan, because she knows that I know. So, but I've never really locked in on taking care of myself in the way that I've taken care of other people on the styling front. Fast forward to one of our I won't say heated discussions, but one of our intense discussions around this. And she goes, it's just like a wardrobe fitting. I don't understand why you don't get this. You do it all the time. And immediately I see, shout out Jason Rimbert, because I see him in my mind laying out things. and like picking like what he prefers and what he likes, going like, okay, yeah, I like those shoes better, but like, let's see what, right? Because he's got to collaborate with the artist, right? But he's putting a bunch of combinations, a bunch of options out. And the minute that Jordan says that, I go like, oh, that's what I've been missing. Putting all of the pieces out so that we can mix and match and figure out what works together. So even back to like me getting my stuff together for Essence and since putting a lot of my fits together, it's choosing all of the shoes that I like the most, putting them down, all of the pants that I like the most, putting them down, and literally just trying things in combinations, seeing what I like, then try them on. And so that's what I've migrated into a much more clear process for like client work. I'm going, hey, here are all of the things that we like, right? Categorically. We know that this category matches with this category. For example, their hats, their shoes, their shirts, their pants, right? Their socks. So we know categorically we got to check all of these boxes. And to be able to take that very simple, super practiced set of examples and being able to apply it to our professional world has been far more intense and far more enlightening than I could actually explain to anybody.
It's really kind of beautiful how you can watch other creatives in other industries or adjacent roles to you and how they approach getting their jobs done, and just looking at it from a different angle, because you'll be in awe sometimes. Oh, this person is so good at but they've really probably acquired that skill somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's really beautiful to watch other people and how they approach things, especially when you think they're efficient, when you think that when you admire them, how are they getting that done? And then making that your own or applying that backwards. I love that.
By giving themselves options, what I learned through that specifically, by giving themselves options, even having done the exercise in the fitting, if you decide that, all right, if we don't like that in game day, we can choose to go with this as our alternate. Yeah. Having choices I'm even excited to share, even though it may not be as profound as someone else, like the release that sort of preparation gives me.
I am not available for styling gigs, by the way. So let me just make sure y'all know that, because some of the guys have seen you and they're like,
yo, what's up?
Yeah, like where'd you know?
And then you look at me and I'm like, some of the plays that I made, like on my own, I just don't, like even all of my Grammy looks.
I just said you did Grammys. I did Essence. I styled you for Essence. You held it down for Grammys. You did. You picked out your own stuff. I took you to Neiman and you picked out your stuff at Neiman and Bloomingdale's, I think.
All right, let's move on, bro.
Okay. Y'all, that was a time.
You know it's real when that bro come out. Come on, bro.
That was a time. A piece of my personal and professional development with planning and organization really came from being a student athlete. I'm trying to look back on when did I get so good at time management? Because I've just always been on a schedule. I've always been on a schedule. I've always been a fan of being on a schedule. And when I was playing college basketball, especially when I transferred from junior college to a Division I school, university, I had to get my stuff together really quick because I had to be up by 5 o'clock for weights. And then right after that, you have individual workouts. And then I'm straight to class. Yeah. And I was a transfer student. So I had hours of college courses to catch up on, not really because I was behind, but it's just different. If you a junior college transfer, you know what I'm talking about. And I had 8, 9, 10 a.m. classes. Then I'm rushing to the caf to get lunch. Cool. I'm on a schedule because then I need to be able to get my nap before afternoon practices. Yeah. And then I got study hall. And then after study hall, I have more work to do. And then I want to kick it with my teammates. You know what I'm saying? So by that time, you mash that all into 24 hours and you getting up by 5 the next day to do the same thing over again. So when I started to think about, well, okay, we're about to have this conversation on planning and organizing. And I get deemed a lot as this organizational wizard and that, you know, it just comes so naturally to me and I make it look easy. And it's something that I've just had to learn because that's how I have had to survive especially in my college days. So I've always been on a schedule. I've always been really intentional about how I spend my time, right? And how I'm prepping to put things on my calendar so I can get things done, because I only have so much time.
Yeah.
So I definitely wanted to add like my personal experience with that. It's not something that just happened, but I've been put into situations, or I've just had opportunities that made me be very like rigid with my schedule.
I think people who do things at a high level, like any particular thing, they have the type of stick response of disgust and fear of like failing and like frustration with.
Yes.
Right. And I look at that particular segment of our world and specifically how you excel there. I imagine you have tremendous disgust for lack of organization, follow through, and planning.
I absolutely do. I can't function. I can't function because I'm like, well, then I'll just go do something else. Like
disgust.
Yeah, I don't like to.
I get it.
You let me know what you think is the difference between planning and organizing. Like, how are those different, and how are we approaching that?
Yeah, I may end up being redundant here for what I've shared earlier, but I think maybe there's a way to dig into what planning looks like.
Sure.
Because I think that there's three levels of planning overall that you should be aware of that need to simultaneously be going in the same direction. And so when I think about the individual planning or plan for an individual, even if you are running an organization, which we'll get to later, like you need to have clarity on why or how a creative person or a contributor should be managed, not how they prefer to be managed. You know, it's about what's going to yield the result that you need to get to. So that's like the first level, just the individual level. Yeah. The second one would be like on the team level, because if you don't have a way to corral all of the feedback, like we talked about earlier, you're just going to miss the sweetness, the opportunity to realize when there's failure and to pivot if you need to, right? Which brings me to the one that we did not talk about at all, or the thing I haven't mentioned is like at the leadership level, at the highest level of the organization, when you are planning for organizing movement for a unit like this, a team, you need to make sure that you don't give them one shot to hit it because you're killing them. You need to make sure that you have slack in the plan so that that individual team can, again, pivot, have a second or sometimes even a third attempt at something. And even if you walk back down the ladder, like I go, okay, well, how long do we have to do this? If you're at the team level, you go, okay, well, team, this could be a minor production unit inside of a larger organization. You're like, all right, well, we got 3 weeks to hit this. Like, let's take the first 2 days to devise a plan. Let's do some testing in day 4 or 5. Let's use days 6, 7, and 8 for feedback around that. And then based on what we find as results, we're going to do our execution over the last, the whatever the remaining time is, the subsequent 2 weeks left. That's a very important way to conceptualize like the different levels of thinking, because I think if you can acknowledge that there is a macro level, that there are several micro levels, but all of them are interdependent, then you have the best chance of respecting what a process may actually need to entail, as opposed to just like putting extreme pressure on your team to produce results that they cannot produce because you don't have, again, proper respect for a full process.
Yeah. Whoa, you just said a word.
There's a lot, right?
I think we've all been on both, maybe the receiving end of that and the person who is in charge or leading. And whoever is leading that just has to know the personnel and what is needed in order for the final result to be.
And even if you got people that can lead from lower levels, what do you call that? What's the language for that?
Managing up.
Like people who can do that well. God bless you. We need those things because your organization is only going to be as good as the person at the top. And so for whatever we are not as an organization, it is a direct reflection of Jordan and I's limitation together.
Yeah.
And you have to live with that. You're not as smart as you think you are. You're not as good as you think you are. What are you going to do about it?
That's a reality check every day. Because on one hand, you want to be your own cheerleader and you want to be really confident. And then on the other hand, you're constantly in the weeds or trying to learn and level up. It's definitely.
Yeah. Would you hire you? Would you fire you?
Ooh.
But I'm derailing a bit. So let's stay on track with what we intended to discuss. But I think those are good things to share.
Well, what do you believe is an underrated system that you would want to share with our audience on the basis of planning and organizing?
You ain't going to listen. I'm going to tell you anyway. But you ain't going to listen. You ain't going to believe it. You ain't going to apply it. But I promise you, you will get, 60% of your working hours back if you listen to me, but whatever. The very first and the most important thing that you can do is inquiry management. So that means somebody's coming to you with a question. 9 times out of 10, whatever industry or thing vertical we're talking about, where people know that you have a set of expertise, there's only about 2 or 3 things that they're asking for repeatedly, right? So like if you are a graphic designer, people are asking you for logos.
Yeah.
Or they're asking you to design a flyer. So you should have a landing page that has a form attached to it where people can ask for a logo, ask for a flyer. Now, whoever's asking is going to have their own way of asking. They might write you a book and send you examples, and somebody might just send you a sentence and expect you to get it. Yeah. You will have no control. So what you should decide to do, and I promise you if you do it, it'll change your life, but you put down a form that requires them to give you the information that you need in a sequence and in a way that you require. You can even provide examples of that. Use a CRM of some sort, and Jordan can teach you about that. That will allow you to send an automated reply with that information that they provided to you in it. That provides them a note from you that says, hey, got your thing. It's automated, right? Mm-hmm. Got your thing. Here's what you shared with me. I'll get back to you in this amount of time. Here's what this generally costs. Because these are all things that you answer over and over and over again. You're just moving yourself out of the responsibility of, hey, well, can you send an example? It was in the goddamn form to send an example. So they'll send you an example because you require them to in order to communicate with you. Do you see how much time I'm giving you back already? But you're not going to do it. All right. Am I making sense so far? So even with that, you can go one more step further if you like. If there are other stakeholders, other players on your team, you can CC them. You can BCC the boss, all of that inside of the automation. And guess what? You can move to like, yo, can you pay me? You can even put that in there, like send a deposit. Here's a link.
Yeah.
And literally 50% of your pre-contractual correspondence is wiped away. If you don't do that, I don't know what to tell you. You just don't want to win. All right. That's one. The other one you definitely not going to do. And it is use email filters. So for me, I use Apple Mail or Mac Mail. And there's a tool in there called Smart Mailboxes. So Smart Mailboxes will allow you to filter your email by sent from, subject, entire email, date, and you can compile all of these different filters if you want. So let's use like an example, like in our world, right? We onboard a new client or we start communicating with a new supplier, right? So I'll take the suffix of their company. I'll also take their company name and create a couple of lines of filter, right? I'll name the filter, let's say it's Fader. And I would go like, the filter is Fader. It would be like @fader.com. And there'll be like Fader, or something, and like search all emails. So now I got an inbox that's just Fader. This is like revolutionary to some people who don't know how to use their email. So like if I have this for Def Jam, I have this for ASCAP, I have this for who's like another vendor. I don't want to give the wrong people no shout out.
Right.
You get the picture, but I can get to and see all of those different partnerships by its own specific mailbox. And here's the super kicker. If I'm looking for a specific thing from those people, now I can even do a more deep and narrow search, just searching inside of that mailbox.
Yeah.
Congratulations, even though you're not going to do anything with this information.
Well, maybe you'll do something with my information.
Let's see.
I do use smart filters too. I'm not sure what they're called on Google Mail because I use Google.
I'm not sure if that client is robust enough, but sure, we've talked about this.
Yeah, okay, I'll show you.
Okay.
My tidbit or my underrated system is meal planning for groups of people. Very different from the systems that you just shared. But I think that it's important to have some sort of hospitality system woven into everything that you do especially when you're working with teams, especially when your teams are all together, whether you're working remote or you're working together, make sure people are fed.
Yes.
I have messed up on this a couple times and I've been in situations where I wasn't fed and I'm like, so we got to eat and like, we don't have time to eat and we're hungry, but we got to pay for it. Or we're like, just why? Because I'm here working. I think it's a small piece of the budget that you can add into anything that you're doing. And when you have a group of people working on something, order a pizza or know what people's dietary preferences are, have a form for them to fill out. If you can be exquisite like that and ask people what they want, let people order their stuff or just have it as a part of the budget. Yeah. And there's been times where I slipped up and I didn't have a plan for being on set or even having guests on the podcast and like not having a refreshment. And I was like, oh, wow, like never again. Or you have to kind of scramble in that moment to figure it out. And it's something that I think is such a small maybe afterthought sometimes. But I think if you have been around Rare, it's part of our culture that everybody eats.
Yes.
Eating is not like, we're going to have whatever refreshments. We're going to have food. We're going to order all the appetizers if we go out to eat together. Like everybody eats because everybody's brought something to the table. So if you are coordinating something or if you have a small team, make sure you're feeding your people. And it just goes so far. People show up when they know like there's going to be food.
Yeah. At least it's one less thing to worry about. And this has always been our culture, no matter how much money we did or did not have at the time.
Yeah.
Like we've always been this way. And even with our parents and our family, like it's always that.
Yeah. Yeah. Food comes first.
Yeah.
Why not?
Because if people have to worry about that, then they can't be present.
Yeah.
Spaceline.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The second thing that I'll add is back to kind of, I don't know why I'm talking about shoots a lot, like brand shoots and sets and being on set and you talking about wardrobe fittings and just there's this thing, this production. We're all producing our ideas, right? And bringing us back to what our topic is. That's why I think we keep talking about some of the same moments or there's a interconnectivity between the same moments is you're doing this production, you're bringing your ideas to life and there's got to be the planning and the organization that goes into that. So the last thing that I'll add is spreadsheets for call sheets. I've used a few other softwares for call sheets, but I have found I just keep going back to a spreadsheet. And I don't think that you would naturally think to put a call sheet in a spreadsheet, but it makes it really easy for it to be updated. And you can get around to customizing it with your, custom colors. I do all of that stuff. If you want to talk spreadsheets as a call sheet, hit me up, because you're going to be able to share it with a lot of people. You can share it with a collaborator. It's easy to make comments on, okay, so-and-so model can't show up until 2:00. It's easy to make updates. It's easy to share, like I just mentioned, and collaborate on a spreadsheet, make live changes. And if you share that link with the rest of the team or the talent, the production staff, they're going to be able to see updates in real time. Know what I mean? And I think, again, like there's a lot of other softwares that you can use for call sheets. Absolutely. That, major organizations are using, but spreadsheets have worked for me. Spreadsheets are free, Google Sheets, and you can we'll sometimes design them in our partners or clients' colors, and it makes them feel like, oh, we went the extra mile to make their brand shoot call sheet look like them. And it's just a flourish that it just keeps everybody like, oh, they really we on track. Like we're going to start at 2:00. We're out by 6, whatever. And that would be my last tidbit, is organizing your call sheets in a spreadsheet, even though spreadsheets don't feel very approachable or attractive to us sometimes.
You better
figure it out.
Turn the cells off, the grid lines off, and publish to web.
Yep.
And if that don't make sense, use your Googles.
Use Google. Google it. But yeah, do you have any final thoughts on us planning or organizing? Anything that you want to put the cherry on top?
I do want to admit that there are deeper levels with how you can leverage software, tools, and other things in order to get, a specific edge and claim time back. Yeah. But if your handicap or your allergy is learning new things, check that. Right? Be okay with being a kindergartner. Be okay with starting from zero, because all of your gains from there are the common separations for people who are ahead of you. They were willing to start from zero when maybe you weren't.
Well said. We appreciate y'all for joining us and tuning in to Stay Sharp. See the description for our show notes. Anything that we mentioned or that might be useful, we'll make sure we link it there.
Yeah.
Like and comment and subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Do all 3 if you can. And we will see you next time.